Okay, let's unpack this because I think we need to start today's deep dive with a bit of a confession.
Mhm.
For the last 50 years, I mean, basically the entire modern era of health advice, the magazines, the morning shows, we have been collectively obsessed with one single thing:
Losing.
losing. Losing weight, losing inches, shrinking, getting smaller. It's the obesity epidemic, right? That's the headline we see every single time.
It is. It's the water we swim in.
Yeah.
It's the narrative we've all grown up with. Health equals thinness, and the enemy is fat.
But here's where the research we're looking at today just throws a massive monkey wrench into that entire machine.
Yeah.
What if we've been asking the completely wrong question for half a century,
What if the crisis isn't just that we have too much fat?
but that we have drastically too little muscle?
That is the paradigm shift. And when you look at the source material we're diving into today, which is this really dense, fascinating conversation between Jay Shetty and Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, it just flips the script.
Yeah.
Dr. Lyon is a functional medicine practitioner, but she specializes in what she calls muscle-centric medicine.
Muscle-centric medicine. I love that phrasing. And I want to set the stage for you listening right now because I know where your brain goes when you hear muscle.
Mhm.
This isn't a deep dive about getting ripped for the beach. This isn't about gym vanity or, looking good in a tank top.
Not at all.
Yeah.
In fact, if you take one thing away from today, it's that looking good is just a side effect. This is about reclassifying skeletal muscle.
Okay.
Dr. Lyon calls it the organ of longevity. She's basically arguing that muscle is the suit of armor that determines whether you survive the second half of your life or not.
Wait, back up a second. You called it an organ.
An organ.
We think of organs as, the heart, the liver, the kidneys, the squishy stuff inside. Muscle is it's just meat. It's the hydraulics that move us around.
That's the old thinking. That's the locomotion view. But the new science, and this is what Dr. Lyon is really pioneering, shows that skeletal muscle is actually the largest endocrine organ in the body.
Endocrine. You mean like the thyroid, like hormones?
Exactly. Think
Yeah.
about that. It's not just dead weight. When you contract your muscles, when you lift something, when you squat, when you exert force, they release these signaling molecules called myokines.
Myokines.
These are chemical messengers that travel through your blood to your brain, your bones, your liver. They regulate your immune system, your metabolism, even your mood.
So it's a communication network.
It's a pharmacy. Your muscles are basically a pharmacy that you open up every time you exercise.
Wow.
So if you have low muscle mass, you're not just weak physically, you're silencing a massive part of your body's ability to regulate itself. You are shutting down the pharmacy.
So we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of why being skinny fat is actually terrifying, the specific and honestly kind of shocking protein numbers you need to hit, and why walking 10,000 steps might not be doing what you think it's doing.
We have a lot to cover.
But I want to start with this story she told because it perfectly explains why we've missed the boat on this for so long. It's the streetlight effect. Did you catch that?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a classic metaphor for cognitive bias in research.
So for everyone listening, picture this. It's 2 a.m. A guy is drunk. He's on his hands and knees under a bright street lamp, frantically looking for his car keys.
Okay.
A police officer walks up and asks, "Did you lose them right here?" And the drunk guy says, "No, I lost them over in the park, in the bushes."
Right.
So the cop is confused, naturally, and asks, "Then why are you looking here?" And the guy says, "Because this is where the light is."
It's funny, but it's tragic when you apply it to medicine.
Right. Because Dr. Lyon argues we focus on obesity, on the fat, because it's under the light. We can see it, we can pinch it, we can measure it on a cheap bathroom scale. It's obvious.
But low muscle mass, or unhealthy marbled muscle, that's hidden in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
You can't necessarily see it just by looking at someone, especially if they're wearing clothes.
Right.
You can't feel your muscle becoming insulin resistant in the same way you feel your waistband getting tight.
Yeah.
So we focus on the fat, which is just the outcome.
And we ignore the muscle health, which is the
Yeah.
mechanism driving the whole ship.
Exactly.
That distinction, that fat is the symptom and muscle health is the root cause, that completely changes how you look at a diet. And she uses another analogy that I think really drives this home. She compares your muscle to a suitcase.
This is the metabolic argument for muscle. It's arguably the most important concept to grasp if you want to understand why you gain weight.
Okay, so walk us through this. I'm going on a trip. I have my carry-on bag.
Right. Think of your muscle as that suitcase. And think of the food you eat, specifically carbs and sugar, as the clothes you're trying to pack.
Okay.
If you have a carry-on suitcase and you pack for a 4-day trip, it closes easily. everything fits. You zip it up, you're good to go.
But if I try to stuff 14 days of clothes into that little carry-on.
It's not going to close. Clothes are hanging out everywhere. It's a mess.
And in this analogy, the clothes hanging out, that's glucose in the bloodstream.
Exactly. Skeletal muscle is the primary place for glucose disposal. About 80% of the sugar you eat is supposed to go into your muscles to be stored as fuel for later.
But if my suitcase is too small because I have low muscle mass.
Or if the suitcase is already full because you haven't moved off the couch.
In 3 days, yeah.
Then that glucose has nowhere to go. It backs up, it stays in the bloodstream, your blood sugar rises, your triglycerides go up, and your body is forced to store it as fat tissue.
So the solution isn't just stop buying clothes, meaning, stop eating.
Right.
The solution is get a bigger suitcase.
Bingo. The more healthy muscle you have, the bigger your metabolic sink. You can handle more luggage, more calories, without getting sick.
That makes so much sense. It's not that your metabolism is slow in some abstract way. It's that you literally have physically less space to put the fuel you're consuming.
And this connects directly to a concept that I think terrifies a lot of people once they understand it. Skinny fat.
Yeah, let's dig into that because I think a lot of people assume if they aren't overweight, they're healthy. I'm not obese, so I'm fine.
Dr. Lyon pretty much shattered that idea. She was very direct. There is no such thing as a healthy sedentary person.
Ouch. That's going to hurt some feelings.
It's harsh, but the biology backs it up. You can be thin, but underneath, your metabolic markers can be chaotic. She uses the visual of a steak to explain this.
A steak?
Think about the difference between a filet mignon and a ribeye.
Okay, I'm hungry now, but go on.
If you look at a filet mignon, it's lean red muscle. That's what healthy, young, active muscle looks like. But if you look at a Wagyu steak or a ribeye, what makes it taste so good?
The marbling. The little white streaks of fat everywhere.
That is fat infiltrated inside the muscle tissue. It's called intramuscular adipose tissue, or IMAT. When you are sedentary, you aren't just gaining fat around your waist. You're gaining fat inside your muscle.
So your muscle is literally turning into a marbled steak.
It is. And I assume that marbling interferes with the suitcase function we just talked about.
Oh, it destroys it. That fat infiltration makes the muscle insulin resistant. It can't absorb glucose effectively anymore.
So you could step on a scale, see a perfect weight according to BMI, but internally, your muscles are marbling, your glucose is spiking, and you're basically pre-diabetic.
That is what we call sarcopenic obesity.
Right. Sarcopenia is technically muscle wasting associated with old age, grandpa getting frail.
Right.
But Dr. Lyon is arguing it's becoming a disease of youth because we are so incredibly sedentary now.
We have 30-year-olds with the muscle composition of 70-year-olds.
Yeah. And this brings up a massive, timely issue with the current craze around weight loss drugs, the GLP-1s like Ozempic.
Right.
Dr. Lyon seemed pretty concerned about this. Not that the drugs are bad inherently, but that we're using them recklessly.
It's a shrinking problem again.
Exactly. These drugs are incredibly effective at reducing weight by killing your appetite. But if you aren't lifting weights and eating enough protein while taking them, which is hard because you aren't hungry, you lose a ton of muscle alongside the fat.
So you start as a large person with unhealthy marbled muscle.
And you end up as a smaller person with even less muscle.
You're shrinking a bad composition into a smaller bad composition.
Yeah.
You might look better in photos, but metabolically, you could actually be in a more fragile state.
Because you've lost that armor and lowered your metabolic rate even further. So when you eventually come off the drug, you have that tiny suitcase, the rebound weight gain can be catastrophic.
Okay, that's the scare tactic part of the deep dive. We're all terrified of marbling and shrinking. So if the goal is to build the suitcase, to build the armor, we have to talk about how we feed it.
Yes.
And Dr. Lyon takes us on a bit of a history tour of bad diet advice first. Did you catch the Lucky Strike diet?
I did. The reach for a lucky instead of a sweet campaign.
It sounds like satire now, but that was real advice in the 1920s. Or the wine and egg diet from the 60s, 2 eggs and a glass of wine for every meal.
I mean, I could maybe get behind the wine part, but my productivity would plummet by noon.
Her point is that we've always been looking for these shortcuts, but the science on protein is actually really solid, yet we're still getting it wrong.
The biggest misconception she points out is about the RDA, the recommended dietary allowance.
This blew my mind. Most people look at a government guideline and think, okay, that's my goal. That's how much protein I need.
And that is dangerous thinking. The RDA is the floor. It is the bare minimum amount needed to prevent you from getting a deficiency disease.
Right.
It is not the amount needed for optimal health, and it certainly isn't enough for muscle growth.
Dr. Lyon suggests we need nearly double that. she throws out a specific number. 1 gram of protein per pound of your ideal body weight.
Which is a lot for most people. The average person is getting maybe 60 to 80 grams.
It is. I mean, a standard egg is like, what, 6 or 7 grams? You'd need to eat nearly 2 dozen eggs to hit that. Why so much? Is it just about building blocks?
It's more
Eating-
mechanical than that. It comes down to a specific amino acid called leucine. This is really the key to the castle.
The magic switch.
Think of muscle synthesis building muscle as a light switch. You can't just use a dimmer. You have to press it hard enough to flip it entirely on in.
And leucine is the finger that flips the switch.
Exactly. And if you don't have enough leucine in a single meal,
The switch stays off.
you might have eaten protein, but you didn't trigger the anabolic response. This is called the leucine threshold. You need about 2.5 grams of leucine in a single sitting to trigger that growth.
And how does that translate to actual food? Because nobody knows how much leucine is in their turkey sandwich.
Generally, if you're eating high-quality animal protein, beef, poultry, eggs, you hit that leucine threshold at around 30 grams of total protein.
Okay, so 30 grams is the magic number per meal. And this leads to her strategy on meal timing. This was a huge aha moment for me because I usually just have coffee and maybe a piece of toast for breakfast.
She says that's practically malpractice.
I know.
She argues the most critical meal is the first one. Think about it. You've been fasting all night. Your body's in a catabolic state. It's breaking down tissue for fuel. To flip that switch and stop the breakdown, you need a large dose of protein immediately.
She recommends, what, 30 to 55 grams?
30 to 55 grams of protein in that first meal.
That is not a bowl of cereal. That's a serious meal.
It is. It's a protein shake, or 3 eggs plus egg whites, or even a steak. But there's another benefit to this high number, besides just muscle.
Okay.
Protein stimulates satiety hormones in the gut, specifically PYY and GLP-1.
Wait, GLP-1 again? That's the same mechanism as the weight loss drugs.
Exactly. Your body produces GLP-1 naturally when you eat enough protein. So by hitting that 30-gram threshold at breakfast, you are naturally suppressing your appetite for the rest of the day.
You're essentially biohacking your own hunger hormones.
You won't be raiding the pantry at 3 p.m. because your brain is satisfied.
So skip the bagel, eat the steak, and you build muscle while stopping yourself from overeating later.
Compare that to what the average person does. She mentioned the average American eats 300 grams of carbohydrates a day.
300 grams.
But if you are sedentary, your muscles, that suitcase, can only process about 50 grams of carbs effectively.
So we have a 250-gram surplus just floating around causing havoc every single day.
That disparity is the metabolic crisis in a nutshell. We are overfilling a tiny suitcase.
Okay, so we fixed the food. We're eating the protein breakfast. Now we have to actually build the armor. And I feel like I need to apologize to my pedometer because Dr. Lyon really came for the 10,000 steps goal.
Well, to be clear, she didn't say walking is bad. Walking is great for cardiovascular health, for clearing your head, but she clarified the type of muscle fibers it affects.
Right, the type 1 and type 2.
We have type 1 fibers, which are for endurance, and type 2 fibers for strength and power.
And which ones do we lose as we age?
The type 2 fibers, those are the use it or lose it fibers. Walking mostly hits type 1. It will not save your type 2 fibers.
So to keep those, you need resistance.
You need to lift something heavy or move your body weight against gravity.
Yeah.
You need to send a signal to the body that says, I still need this strength.
She gave a really simple test for this, the push-up test.
It's a great baseline. Can you do 10 push-ups?
And for a lot of people, the answer is a hard no.
And that's okay. Dr. Lyon shared a personal story about starting on her knees, doing just 1 after surgery. But the point is to track it.
Weakness is not inevitable. That was the quote.
Right. But you have to prove to your body that it needs to stay strong. If you don't provide that resistance, the body assumes you don't need that expensive muscle tissue, and it gets rid of it to save energy.
And it's not just physical, right? This was the part that felt very deep. She talked about how muscle moves the mind.
This was profound. We often try to think our way out of anxiety or a mental spiral. We just sit there and ruminate.
Right.
But Dr. Lyon argues that changing your physiology is the fastest way to change your psychology.
Like the cold plunge or the sprint.
Exactly. If you do a 10-second max effort sprint, or jump in freezing water, or lift a weight that requires your absolute total focus, you cannot worry about your email. You can't ruminate.
You are forced into the present moment. Physical strength gives you a tool to interrupt mental weakness.
I love that. Using the body to hack the mind.
But before we get everyone running to the grocery store to load up on protein, we need to issue a warning. we need to talk about protein washing.
Yes. This is a massive trap in the grocery aisles right now.
Because now that protein is a buzzword, you see it on everything. Protein chips, protein cookies, protein ice cream.
It's marketing genius, but nutritional garbage.
Yeah.
Dr. Lyon points out the disparity in budgets. Whole foods like beef, milk, eggs have tiny marketing budgets.
Right. The egg board doesn't have a Super Bowl ad.
But the processed food giants have unlimited budgets. So they take a bag of potato chips, dust it with a tiny bit of low-quality protein, slap 10-gram protein on the front, and sell it as a health food.
And her take is that this is just diluting your diet.
Exactly. You're getting hundreds of extra calories of processed oils and sugars just to get a sprinkling of amino acids. She's very clear. Stick to whole foods.
Don't eat protein Doritos thinking you're building your organ of longevity.
You're just eating expensive junk food.
Speaking of supplements, she did have a short list of things she actually recommends. It wasn't a huge list, which I appreciated.
No, very targeted. Creatine was at the top.
And not just for bodybuilders. I feel like creatine has this gym bro reputation.
It does, but it's really a brain supplement. She mentioned 3 to 5 grams for muscle, but suggested going up to 10 or 12 grams for brain function. Helps with cognitive fatigue.
Then she mentioned something I hadn't heard of before. Urolithin A.
Yeah, this is interesting. It's a postbiotic. It comes from compounds in pomegranates and walnuts. Its job is to help clean up your mitochondria, the power plants of your cells.
So why supplement? Can't I just eat a pomegranate?
You can, but apparently only about 40% of people have the right gut bacteria to convert the food into urolithin A. So even if you eat the fruit, you might not get the benefit.
Got it. And then the basics. Vitamin D and fish oil.
Standard but vital. Vitamin D receptors are actually on muscle tissue. If you're deficient, you're more likely to fall, have weak muscles, and recover slowly. It's all connected.
So if we zoom out, we're shifting the goalpost from being skinny to being capable.
That's the synthesis.
Yeah.
The goal isn't to look good in a mirror, though that happens. The goal is survivability. The goal is to be harder to kill.
She dropped a stat at the end that really shook me. It put all of this into perspective.
The longevity stat.
Yeah. If you are strong in midlife, meaning you have high muscle mass, you have a 2.5 times greater chance of living to 100.
2.5 times. That's massive. It's a bigger buffer against mortality than almost anything else we can control. Muscle is your reserve.
What do you mean reserve?
If you get sick, if you get cancer, if you get in a car accident, your body breaks down muscle to survive. It mines your muscle for amino acids to repair your organs.
So it's basically a savings account for your health.
Exactly. If you have low muscle mass, you're living paycheck to paycheck. One bad illness, and you're bankrupt.
Yeah.
You don't have the resources to recover.
But if you have that muscle mass, you have a massive savings account to draw from. That really reframes the whole protein at breakfast thing, doesn't it?
It does. It changes I have to work out to I am building the capacity to handle life.
So here is the challenge for you listening today. We always like to leave you with something actionable. Try the breakfast challenge, just for a week.
30 to 50 grams of protein in that first meal, it's going to feel like a lot of food. But just try it. See how your energy changes.
And second, find your baseline. Do the push-up test. If it's 0, it's 0. If it's 20, great. But pick a resistance exercise and track it. Prove to yourself that you are not on a decline.
Remember, weakness is not inevitable.
I love that. And here is one final thought to chew on. We talked a lot about physical armor, but consider this. We often say we don't have time to exercise. We're too busy.
Right.
Dr. Lyon's response to that was lethal. She asked, if you don't have time for health and wellness, how are you going to have time for sickness?
That's the ultimate question, because
Why?
sickness takes a lot more time than a workout.
Thanks for diving in with us. Go lift something heavy. We'll see you next time.
Take care.